Stop scrolling. Something in your life is shifting, and you can feel it deep inside. It's not just coincidence. It's not luck. It's something greater, something divine. Right now, things around you may seem confusing, but behind the curtain of your daily life, God may already be guiding your path in ways you can't yet see. So many people overlook the signs because they expect loud miracles. But God doesn't always speak through thunder. Sometimes He whispers through strange delays, quiet moments, or things being taken away. These aren't punishments, they're precise moves, hidden alignments, acts of love wrapped in disguise. You're not watching this video by accident. This message found you for a reason. In the next few minutes, you'll discover 7 powerful signs that God is helping you, subtly, silently, and supernaturally. These are not the obvious signs people talk about. These are the ones most ignore, the ones that often appear when you feel the most lost. But once you recognize them, everything begins to make sense. Patterns connect, peace enters, and you realize you were never walking alone. Stay until the end, because the final sign will shake your perspective. It's the one most people never see coming, and once you notice it, your entire understanding of your life could change. This video is for those who are searching, for those who feel something is calling them higher. If that's you, you're in the right place. Welcome to our channel, where we explore life's hidden patterns and divine truths. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a message that might be meant just for you. Let's begin. Sometimes the first sign that God is helping you doesn't look like help at all. It looks like loss. People who once meant everything to you suddenly drift away. Opportunities you thought were yours vanish without warning. The job you prayed for slips through your fingers. At first it hurts. It feels like rejection. It feels like failure. But in the silence of that space, something sacred is happening. Something only time will reveal. You might be wondering why certain people stopped calling, why that friend turned distant, why a relationship that felt unbreakable suddenly collapsed. It feels personal. But it's not always about you doing something wrong. It's about God removing what no longer serves your journey. Not as punishment, but as preparation. You may not see it yet, but behind that closed door, a better one is being unlocked. Sometimes God will take away the noise, so you can hear what He's been trying to say. Sometimes He allows certain people to walk away so they don't hold you back from what's coming next. And even though it stings in the beginning, months later, you find yourself whispering, "Thank you. Thank you for what didn't work. Thank you for saving me from what I once begged to keep." This is the kind of help that doesn't come wrapped in comfort. It comes wrapped in confusion, and yet there's a strange kind of peace that follows it. You start to notice that the more you let go, the lighter you feel, the more space you have, spiritually, emotionally, and even physically. That's not by accident. That's divine design. Think back. Has something or someone been forcefully removed from your life lately? Did it leave you questioning your worth, your value, your direction? Take a moment and look again. That removal may have been the very thing keeping your path blocked. God doesn't just add. He subtracts. He prunes. He breaks things apart not to hurt you but to build something stronger. Sometimes when you're surrounded by the wrong people, you can't hear your own calling. Their voices drown out your intuition. Their presence dims your inner light. So God steps in and clears the space. Not to make you lonely, but to make you ready. Ready for the people who match your growth. Ready for the doors that align with your purpose. Even the delays, even the detours, they all start making sense when you realize that removal is part of the process. When God starts clearing the room, don't chase what's leaving. Trust what's coming. What you lose today might be the very thing that saves you tomorrow. This kind of shift is quiet. It doesn't come with fanfare. It comes in moments when you're left wondering why. But hidden in that confusion is a blessing, a divine reset, a realignment that pulls you closer to the life you were meant to live. There are moments in life when you're sure something is meant for you. You've prayed for it, prepared for it, believed with your whole heart that it was the right door. And then just when you're ready to walk through it, it slams shut. Without warning, without explanation. All you're left with is silence and confusion. It doesn't make sense. You did everything right. So why did it fall apart? That's where the deeper work begins. Because not every closed door is a punishment. Sometimes it's protection in disguise. That opportunity you thought was perfect. Maybe it wasn't what it seemed. That relationship you wanted so badly. Maybe it would have drained you in ways you couldn't yet see. That job, that city, that plan. It might have looked right on the surface, but beneath it was something misaligned with your purpose. And so God stepped in and blocked it. Quietly. Deliberately. It can feel like rejection. Like the universe turned its back on you. But rejection is not always a no. Sometimes it's a not yet. Or not this way. Or not this path. Because God sees what you can't. He sees the motives behind closed doors. He sees what's waiting on the other side. And if it isn't meant to elevate you, He will not allow you to settle there. Think about those moments where things didn't go your way. The ones that still linger in your memory. Maybe you didn't get into the program. Maybe the person you thought was the one walked away. Maybe the timing just never worked out. And yet looking back now, you realize if that door had opened, you would have missed something better. Something you didn't even know was possible. This is how divine redirection works. It's quiet. It's confusing. But it's always for your growth. It moves you away from what looks good on paper and toward what aligns with your soul. And that process often requires a little heartbreak, a little letting go. Because without the pain of that closed door, you might have never looked for a new one. Every time a door closes, there's a shift. It forces you to pause, reflect, redirect your energy. And in that redirection, something opens, something real. But it doesn't announce itself right away. Sometimes you have to keep walking through uncertainty before the next path becomes clear. Closed doors test your faith. They make you question your plans. But over time, they also reveal something much more powerful, that you were never being denied. You were being guided, pulled towards something higher, even when you didn't understand it. So next time a door closes that doesn't make sense, don't rush to force it open. Pause. Breathe. There's a reason you're being held back, and that reason is always bigger than the one you had in mind. There are seasons when everything around you feels like it's breaking. Plans unravel. People change. Life doesn't follow the script you expected. But in the middle of that storm, something strange happens. You're not panicking. You're not falling apart like before. There's a stillness inside you that wasn't there in the past. It doesn't match your circumstances. It doesn't make sense on paper. But it's real. It's calm. And it's unshakable. That calm isn't coming from you. It's not something you created. It's not from positive thinking or pretending everything is fine. It's deeper than that. It's coming from somewhere higher, somewhere divine. Because when the world outside becomes noise, God becomes your silence. When the ground shakes beneath you, His presence becomes your anchor. You start to notice that you're responding differently. Things that used to trigger fear now make you pause, not panic. You don't rush to fix everything. You don't need every answer right away. Instead, there's a quiet trust that everything will unfold as it should. And that trust is not weakness. It's spiritual strength. A gift from God that reminds you, you're not facing this storm alone. That peace is often the clearest sign of divine support. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It shows up in the middle of sleepless nights, when you suddenly feel held. It walks with you during hard conversations, when the words flow without fear. It sits beside you when you're alone, reminding you that you're never truly abandoned. There are moments when the chaos outside is loud, but something inside you keeps saying, you're gonna be okay. That voice is not just your inner wisdom. It's the hand of God over your heart. It's His way of saying, I'm here. Keep going. And the more you trust that peace, the stronger it grows. The louder the storm gets, the deeper your stillness becomes. You begin to realize that peace isn't the absence of problems. It's the presence of God in the middle of them. It's the calm that doesn't wait for the chaos to end. It stands firm right inside it. And that's when you know you're being guided. You're being protected in ways that aren't always visible but are always real. This kind of peace doesn't come from understanding every step. It comes from knowing who's walking with you. And when God is with you, the storm might rage on, but it can't shake what's rooted in Him. The world around you may bend, but you won't break. This quiet confidence, this deep sense of stillness, it's not ordinary. It's sacred. It's a reminder that divine help doesn't always come in dramatic ways. Sometimes it comes in the stillness of your spirit. The unexplainable calm, the kind that carries you when nothing else can. Waiting can be one of the hardest things, especially when you've prayed, planned, and positioned yourself for the breakthrough. You start thinking it should have happened by now. You question if you're doing something wrong. The silence feels endless, and every passing day chips away at your confidence. But what you don't see is what's happening behind the scenes. The delay isn't a denial, it's a design, a carefully timed pause that's working in your favor. You might look at others and wonder why their doors opened while yours stayed shut, why their journey feels faster, smoother, easier, but their path isn't yours. What's meant for you isn't being withheld, it's being prepared. Because when God works, He works with precision. He's not interested in giving you something early just to watch it fall apart. He delays it so that when it arrives, it's ready. And so are you. Sometimes the delay is not about the blessing being prepared, it's about preparing you, building your patience, sharpening your character, teaching you how to hold something greater when it comes. The things you're waiting for often require a stronger version of you, and that strength is born in the waiting. There's a kind of growth that can't happen any other way. You learn how to stand without answers, how to keep walking without proof, how to trust without timelines. That's not wasted time, that's training. Spiritual preparation that shapes you for the very thing you've been asking for. And when you come out of that delay, you don't just receive the blessing, you become the person who can protect it. Think back to the times something took longer than you expected. Maybe it was a relationship, a career shift, a personal transformation. At the time, it felt like everything was standing still. But later, when the door finally opened, you realized the timing couldn't have been more perfect. If it had happened earlier, you wouldn't have been ready. If it had come too soon, it might have broken you. God is never late. He's never uncertain. Every second of waiting is filled with purpose, even when it feels pointless. And sometimes the blessing isn't just what arrives, it's who you become while you're waiting. You don't have to understand the delay to trust it. You just have to remember that everything sacred takes time. Seeds don't bloom overnight. Foundations take time to build. And when something is meant to last, it doesn't arrive rushed. It arrives rooted. That long stretch of silence, that period where nothing seems to be moving, that's often where the biggest breakthroughs are born. The longer the wait, the greater the reward. Because when God finally says, "Now," everything aligns. The doors open. The people show up. The timing feels effortless. And suddenly what once felt delayed becomes undeniable. There are moments in life that seem too perfectly timed to be random. You think of someone you haven't spoken to in years, and your phone lights up with their message. You keep hearing the same phrase, seeing the same number, or stumbling across the same quote in different places. At first it feels like coincidence, but deep down, something tells you it's not. It feels guided, timed, almost like someone is trying to get your attention. This is how divine confirmation works. It doesn't always speak through miracles. Sometimes it whispers through patterns, through repeated symbols, through little nudges that line up so precisely. They bypass logic. These are not accidents. They are signs, clues, moments where heaven touches earth to remind you, you're not alone and you're not off track. You might start noticing that the things you were praying about begin showing up in conversations. A friend mentions the exact struggle you've been facing. A video plays, and the speaker says the very words you needed to hear. A random post feels like it was written just for you. These moments are subtle, but they carry weight. They make you pause. They stir something inside you. It's in these moments that God communicates with clarity that doesn't need explanation. You feel it more than you understand it. The signs keep appearing, Not to confuse you, but to confirm what your spirit already knows. Sometimes it's an answer to a silent prayer you never said out loud. Sometimes it's guidance when you're standing at a crossroads and don't know what to do next. When something keeps showing up, pay attention. Repetition is not random. It's often revelation. It's how God shows you where to look, what to trust, and when to move. And the more you become aware of these signs, the more they seem to multiply. That's not your mind playing tricks on you. That's alignment. You begin to understand that life is not just a series of unrelated events. It's a connected path, woven together by divine threads. Every coincidence becomes a breadcrumb. Every repeated message becomes a light. These moments might not be loud, but they are deeply personal, tailored for you, delivered at just the right time to remind you of what's true. When you start to experience this kind of alignment, your perspective shifts. You stop brushing things off as chance. You start seeing meaning in the small. You recognize the divine language of timing and flow, and it humbles you, because you realize you're being watched over, guided, reminded that God is not just present in the big moments, but in the tiny quiet ones too. There's a sacred rhythm to this kind of guidance. It doesn't rush. It doesn't force. It simply appears again and again until you can't ignore it. And when you finally start listening, something opens. You begin to trust those nudges. You start to follow the patterns. And in doing so, you walk a path that feels less random, more intentional, more alive. There comes a point when the things that used to entertain you no longer feel the same. The shows you once binge-watched seem empty. The conversations that once thrilled you now feel hollow. The habits that used to fill your time start to fade. And you can't quite explain why. It's not boredom. It's not burnout. It's something deeper, something changing from the inside out. This shift is subtle but powerful. You start craving silence instead of noise, solitude instead of distraction. You feel uncomfortable in places you used to love. You sense a distance growing between you and your old ways. And it's not forced. It's natural. That's the sign of divine transformation. God isn't just changing your surroundings. He's changing your desires. There's a pull happening. A quiet, persistent tug towards something higher. It doesn't always come with clarity. Sometimes you don't know what you're being pulled toward, you just know you can't stay where you were. The things that once gave you comfort no longer feel like home. And even though you might not fully understand it, you begin to release them, not out of fear, but because they no longer fit the person you're becoming. This is what growth looks like when God is leading it. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's a deep shift in values, in priorities, in energy. You become more aware of your thoughts, more selective about where your time goes. You start asking yourself different questions, ones that go beyond temporary satisfaction. You start seeking meaning, purpose, alignment. And that's not your own doing. That's God clearing space within you, so something greater can take root. The old version of you begins to fade, not because it was bad, but because it's no longer needed. You've outgrown it, and the habits that once defined you no longer feel worth holding on to. It's like shedding a skin, painful in places, but necessary. You might notice that you start saying no more often. No to distractions. No to gossip. No to patterns that kept you stuck. And at first that can feel lonely, like you're walking away from everything familiar. But in that space something beautiful starts to grow. A new voice. A new rhythm. A sense of clarity that wasn't there before. God doesn't just call you upward. He cleanses you first. He removes what clutters your spirit. He draws you away from what numbs your growth. And it's in that emptying that the transformation happens. Not all at once, but moment by moment, choice by choice. You begin to feel lighter, more centered. Your heart feels less distracted, more focused. You stop chasing temporary highs and start searching for lasting peace. And even though the process is quiet, it's powerful, because real change doesn't shout. It whispers. And when it comes from God, it doesn't just change what you do. It changes who you are becoming. There comes a moment when something stirs inside you that you can't ignore. It's not caused by anyone else. It doesn't come from outside pressure. It's deeper than motivation. It feels like a quiet but undeniable awakening. You wake up one morning and realize you're not satisfied with how things have been. You want more. Not more money, not more noise, but more meaning, more purpose, more peace. That shift isn't random. It's a calling. It's the beginning of transformation. You start to feel uncomfortable with your old routines. You look at your life and feel a growing desire to break out of the loop you've been stuck in. You're not sure where it's coming from, but something is whispering that this isn't all there is. That there's a deeper version of you waiting to emerge. A version that's more aligned, more aware, more alive. That spark inside of you. That's not ordinary. That's sacred. That's God placing a hand on your soul and saying it's time. This is the moment when growth begins. Not when everything around you changes, but when you begin to want the change. When comfort starts to feel like a trap. When the familiar feels too small for who you're becoming. That hunger to grow is not just a personal desire. It's divine communication. God doesn't just speak through signs outside of you. Sometimes He speaks through the fire He lights within you. You might find yourself reading things you never cared about before, listening to messages that touch you in ways they never used to. You feel pulled towards silence, reflection, purpose. You start asking deeper questions. You begin seeking answers you didn't know you needed. And it doesn't matter how far you've strayed in the past. This desire shows up fresh, full of grace, full of invitation. Sometimes this awakening happens after a long season of feeling stuck. It rises out of frustration, from hitting a wall. Other times it arrives gently, like a whisper in your spirit. Either way, it's not something to ignore. It's not anxiety. It's not pressure. It's a holy signal, a sign that God is waking something up in you, something He planted long ago, now ready to bloom. You begin to notice that certain things you used to tolerate now feel unbearable. You can't stay around the same energy. You can't waste your time in the same cycles. You crave truth. You crave growth. You crave something real. That craving is evidence, proof that you're being called forward. This is where purpose begins. Not when you've figured everything out, but when you finally say, I'm ready. You don't need to know the full path. You just need to trust the spark. That deep, silent push that keeps returning, reminding you there's more. You are not being pushed by the world. You are being pulled by something greater. And that pull is not a burden. It's a blessing. It's the first step toward becoming who you were always meant to be. If you've seen yourself in any of these signs, know this: God is helping you right now. Even in the moments that feel quiet, confusing, or still, He is working behind the scenes. Even when it's silent, He's never absent. Every shift you're feeling, every change pulling you deeper, every moment of peace in the middle of chaos, those are not random. They are signs. They are reminders. They are love. You're not lost. You're being led. You're not forgotten. You're being prepared. Trust the process. Reflect on what's unfolding in your life. And remember, the more you listen, the clearer the signs become. The more you trust, the closer you feel to something greater than yourself. Don't ignore the signs. Don't brush them off as coincidence. They spare not. They are divine messages tailored just for you. Gentle whispers that say, keep going. You spare not alone. If this message spoke to you, take a moment to like this video. It helps us reach more hearts that need this truth. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel. We share real messages for real souls, because you deserve to feel supported, guided, and connected. Thank you for watching. And remember, when you start noticing the signs, it means the healing has already begun.